Kicking off this video with a duel I had going second versus Purrely in Master Rank 1. Here is a challenge I have for you. With the cards currently in my hand, can you see the line to victory? This is going to be a little different, where on my turn, I will talk about every action I take and the thought process behind it, because I think there is exactly one line here that wins us the game. If you have been around for at least since last week, you know how I feel about Purrely. You all voted for me to bring this to a tournament, and I was knocked out in the first 2 rounds. This deck is just so bad. We don't even need Droll, Kurikaras, Nibiru, or Kaijus to win. We have no interruptions here, so they are free to do anything and everything they want. So let's just fast forward to my main phase and then talk about their end board. So what did they end on? They ended on a Robin that can bounce 2 of my special summoned monsters, and a Noir that's currently at Towers and has 4 spins. They also got to draw 1 card because they had Sleepy Memory attached to Noir. So again, they have 4 spins on Noir and 2 bounces on Robin. In our hand, we have Crossout Designator. This will trade for whatever this card is if it's a hand trap. We also have this trap that is useless this turn. So we have 4 cards to play with against 4 spins and 2 bounces. So let's do it. So we open with Focused Aqua Mirror, which is just a Rhoda that adds any Gishki monster to our hand. It also has a bonus effect in the end phase, but in 30 duels, I've never used it. I use it to add Grimness to my hand. When normal or special summoned, Grimness can summon another Gishki monster from our deck. An important thing to keep in mind is, when we use this effect, we can only attack with ritual monsters. So if we do this on main phase 1, we won't be able to go into our Zeus plays. But for our purposes in this game, we won't attack this turn because we don't need to. So now we summon Abyss. When summoned, it adds any of our non-ritual Gishki monsters. So then we add Vision, which will then search out our ritual monster, Nerimanes. Now we pivot into sprites, Special Blue, and then they bounce it while we add Jet to our hand. Special Jet, and then they bounce it again while we add another starter. Of course, they are doing this to reduce the risk of me linking their Noir away into Goddess. Link Elf, and then we use it to summon back Abyss. At this point, I want to talk about how, aside from Grimness, all of our non-ritual Gishki effects are not once per turn. So this time, Abyss adds Shadow to my hand. Shadow discards itself to add Photo Mirror. This will let us ritual summon Nerimanes at the cost of 5,000 life points. So now that we've ritual summoned Nerimanes, what does it do? 2 things. When ritual summoned, we can summon a water monster from the grave, and then once per turn, it can negate a monster effect, but to resolve this, Nerimanes needs to be able to return to our hand. So Nerimanes summons back Vision since it's another level 2. Now we overlay into Gigantic and place it under Elf. You might be wondering why we didn't put Nerimanes under Elf. This is because we are using the fish as bait. I want them to waste 2 materials on it, and they did. We just have to chain Nerimanes, so then we can bounce it back to our hand and reuse it next turn because we already have Illusion in hand. This will let us summon Nerimanes on our opponent's turn for a monster negate and spin. They are panicking and decide to spin back Elf. We no longer need Elf, but we have to change starter here to summon Red. So why did we want exactly this to happen? Noir is no longer at towers and is affected by our effects. This also provides us with a monster negate in the form of Spright Red. The most important part is, now we have a Spright card in our grave, and this makes our Smashers live, and we can out there my friend Purrely with it in the next chain. So I activate Gigantic, Noir spins it back. Red negates and destroys it, and their last Noir trigger to spin back Red. And now I banish Starter and Grave. On resolution, Red and my friend is banished in the same chain as we get rid of Noir. So we played through all of their interruptions while also keeping card advantage. We started the turn with 6 cards, and we ended the turn with 6 cards. On their draw phase, I activate Illusion to cheat out Neremanis. They activate Happy, discarding their Nib, which I'm sure they drew for turn. Lily activates and I bounce Neremanis to negate it. Now they probably thought they would get a free Zeus here, but no, I just used Starter and they ran away. Here is my 45 card deck list. I play 2 of each of the Gishki monsters except for a Grimness, which can special summon another Gishki monster from the deck. 3 focused Aquamirrors, since it can search out any of our Gishki monsters, and 1 of each Gishki Aquamirror, Photo Mirror, and Illusion. Then we have the usual Spright package. The rest are just 2 Fenrir's and then hand traps. I find that 45 cards is fine since we can pretty much search out most of the things from our deck. In the extra deck, everything is pretty much standard, apart from Zoroboros and Zelantis. I play these 2 since we will always almost end on Masquerena and Spright Elf. On our opponent's turn, this will let us link into Zoroboros and then summon Spright Blue or Jet to one of its link zones, and then we can add a Spright card to our hand while also banishing everything on the field. This will also stop them from getting draws off if we use Eclipse earlier in the turn. And then next turn, Zoroboros will come back on our turn. If you remember from my complete Spright guide, we call this Plan Z. But another version of this is with Zelantis. Zelantis kind of does the same thing, but after it banishes all of the monsters on the field, we get to place the monsters back face up or face down. So again, no draws on Eclipse, and if they had any XYZ monsters, all of them will lose their materials. I have additional replays for you to check out. Versus Runick Stun, what happens if we don't draw Gishkis versus Mathmech, and then what we do under Shifter versus Kashtira. I hope you learned something from this video. Until next time.